everyone. Welcome to another episode of Bees Buzz with Stevie D and his co-host G Hikes. We got lots to cover this week, so stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Bees Buzz with my co-host G Hikes, and we'll be wrapping up the past games of the week. G Hikes.
Well, Stevie, first of all, the week actually started off good as far as like the Bruins from a standpoint of being honored. David Krejci and Brad Marchand during the Bruins' 7-game streak where they went 6-0-1. David Krejci, he was, and by the way, too, the Bruins are also. Earlier this week, they were averaging 3.9 goals per game, ranked number 1 in the NHL.
Yeah, they're scoring this year.
They are scoring this year, even though we don't have a 50-goal scorer. We've got a bunch of guys contributing every night.
Right.
But anyways, the NHL announced last Monday that David Krejci was named the 3rd star of the month, while forward Brad Marchand was named the 1st star of the week. And, you know, with the thing I like about Krejci is Krejci said, well, that's great and all, but, you know, at the same time, we're out to win games, so I'm really not concerned about that. If it happens, it happens.
Absolutely.
But anyways, between the both of them and up until last week, David Krejci was leading the league in scoring. And, you know, I think he's probably still like 3rd or 4th. And Brad Marchand, he had a great week. Last week, he had registered 4 goals and 2 assists in 3 games, and he also got the game winner against the Panthers on Friday night. So that was a good way to start off the week as far as that news went, you know.
Right.
So anyways, so Tuesday, the Bruins play the Dallas Stars with Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn coming into town. And that game didn't work out so well. Bruins suffer a loss, 5-3 victory, and of course Tyler Seguin ends up getting a hat trick. And, you know, the Stars only had 19 shots on net. However, I'd say 2 of Tyler Seguin's goals anyways, I really can't fault Tuukka. He had screens, and they were also snipe shots. You know, the Bruins kind of let the defense kind of squandered a little bit in their own zone, not covering guys, and
right.
You know, it just didn't. The game also took a little spin early on for the Bruins, and not in a good way. Where Chris Kelly. You know, it's funny. He ended up getting. It's not funny. He ended up getting injured, and he's going to miss 6 to 8 months after fracturing his left femur in the first period of the Bruins' 5-3 loss. Now, if you watch that, okay, he really the Dallas player who was kind of like trying to like get the puck in the same area, he never really hit him. The back of his stick like hit near his back, but it was because of the way Kelly twisted. But a lot of people didn't mention how that. In fact, I was actually waiting for either Brick or Edwards to mention how that Saturday night watching the Bruins game, I remember he left at some point in the 3rd period and he was like limping off. And then he did come back and play a couple of shifts. So I think that maybe that might have either been the start of something going bad at that game. But, you know, it's just kind of funny that it wasn't mentioned. But needless to say, I mean, that's going to hurt because Kelly's versatile.
He's having a good year,
He had a good. He was off to a good start. He's a versatile veteran, and like I said, they've used him in all different kinds of lines to play, and he always seems to fit right in. Great, he's one of our better players. Him and Bergeron probably on the penalty killing. In other words, it's a lot like the ozone layer.
Yeah.
You don't realize how much you miss him until it's gone.
Right. And like you say, the penalty killings really, I don't know why. I mean, I don't think Campbell made that big a difference, but we'll talk about that.
Right, exactly. So then we have Thursday. The Bruins go to on the road to Washington to play the Capitals. But this game, the Bruins actually it started off decent. It was 1-1 after the first period, but then the Capitals just took over. But
Capitals capitalized.
Yeah, and they won 4-1. But I think that. This what Tuukka said here after the game, okay, and we had talked about this, that the tide with that game turned was when the Bruins were already down one guy, and then Brad Marchand took a roughing penalty in front of the Bruins net, and it would end up being a 5-on-3.
Yeah, absolute stupid penalty, and that's typical Marchand. Yeah, he just won't learn.
Yeah, like Tuukka says, they had a 5-on-3, so that was a big momentum changer for them. Yeah. I mean, talking about like putting a gun to your head with the Capitals power play, a 5-on-3. It's just.
And Tuukka was at the game, 17 shots, 4 goals. I mean, Tuukka was terrible.
No, actually, that game Tuukka had, it was the game beforehand with the 19 shots. Tuukka actually had a lot of shots on net.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
that one, yeah.
Yeah, he did have a lot of shots on net, but needless to say, I mean, they ended up with a loss.
Yeah.
And
well, they're not going to win them all.
No, first, and as we said too, it's going to be an up and down season for a while until they get into gel. They had a good run with the 6-0-1, and that was their first road loss. So
right, that's true. So
yeah. So
but
anyways,
they're not going to win them all, and they are scoring until we get to the game coming up. But
right.
I mean, it's I think the team basically has a chance of making the playoffs, but the first round, I don't know, especially with Montreal this year. But
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the Habs, so the Bruins go to Montreal, and they first of all, I thought they made a great decision here by deciding to. I know initially that the talk was that they were going to go with Tuukka on Thursday against the Caps, Tuukka on Saturday against the Canadiens, and then Sunday they were going to go with Jonas Gustafsson against the Islanders.
Right.
Well, they changed that, and after Thursday's game, there must have been some discussion, and with Tuukka's record being like 3-13 or 3-14 all time against the Canadiens.
He's good goalie.
Yeah. So they went with they went with Gustafsson, and he actually played very well. I mean, he made a lot of good stops. But unfortunately, the Bruins, they did get off to a great start. The Habs were sloppy right off the get go. They were icing the puck, and they took a penalty, and the Bruins got on the board first.
Right.
Louis Eriksson deflected a Bergeron shot off of his skate. Then in the second period, I know me and Steve, we were texting during the game, and Steve said, well, he goes, I wouldn't be a bit surprised within 8 minutes that the Canadians end up getting a power play and scoring a goal. And sure enough, I think it happened within the first two minutes.
Yeah, because I texted back. I didn't expect it that quick.
Exactly. I mean, it was a marginal call on David Krejci. It was a hooking call, but we knew that the next penalty was going to be the Bruins. So, one key mistake that the Bruins made on that goal was they were trying to clear instead of trying to just clear the puck and dump it in the corner. The Canadians, they decided to try to break in the zone because somebody got some open ice. Well, anyways, what happens is the Bruins end up with two guys trapped in the Canadian zone, and then before you know it, the Canadians come down and they score to tie up the game. So it's like you got to remember. I mean, you're not playing the Arizona Coyotes, you're playing the Montreal Canadiens.
Right.
You just can't really take chances like that, especially too when you're in that Montreal building and those fans can just take over that whole place.
Well, you had the opportunity there to win that game.
Right.
It was right there, and they they did a good job. They didn't score a lot of goals in the first and second period, but they kept the lead. But they sat on it in the third.
Yeah.
Even though they did play good hockey in the third. They really played 60 minutes. They were sloppy in times. And I don't know what's with the penalty kill. Now we have a great power play, and now they can't kill penalties. But like I was telling you, they got to win faceoffs when they're shorthanded.
Yeah.
You can't be having it's puck possession. That's what it is. And if you lose that puck possession, you're screwed.
Yep.
And again, a terrible penalty by Krejci. I'm sorry. You could say the guy dove. You can say anything you want.
Yeah, that one at the end of the game there, that was, like you said, Steve, hey, a cross-check is a cross-check, no matter how you put it.
Whether you fall or not, you can't cross-check a player, period. Doesn't mean he has to go down. It's a penalty. You cross-check him. You have no business doing that.
Yeah.
It's just like whacking a guy over the head with a stick. Don't do it.
Right.
It's discipline.
Yep.
And two undisciplined plays by Marchand and Krejci, who were players of the week, by the way.
Right. Yeah.
Cost them 2 games. Marchand ain't going to say cost the game, but it did change the momentum.
Yeah, it did on that Washington game. That was basically the beginning of the end for the Bruins.
But you got to kill penalties. I mean, 5-on-3 is different.
Right,
but,
right.
I mean, last part of the game, I mean, I vaguely remember, did Montreal pull the goalie and have a 6-on-4 there?
You mean the Bruins?
I mean last night when Montreal tied it.
Yeah, well, Montreal went ahead. The Bruins pulled.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Bruins pulled, and then they scored an open net goal to make it 4-2.
That's
so,
right. Okay.
But anyways, the Bruins brought up Frank Vetrano from the Providence Bruins, and he scored his first NHL goal, and the Bruins go up 2-1. But then the Canadians. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, then the Canadians tied it up, as Steve was saying, when, Krug and McQuaid, they kind of fell asleep there on defense and just let the Canadians throw a puck in with, not really anybody on them in front.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. But then we were talking about how that, and this is towards the end of the game there with the score still tied at 2-2. At this point, I'm thinking, boy, you know what? All right, it's 2-2. Gustafsson has made some great stops. Another guy that I thought was playing very well last night was defenseman Zach Trotman. He had sat out quite a few games, and now he's getting some playing time. And I'll tell you what, last night, he was blocking an awful lot of shots out there, shots that probably would have made it to the net and maybe possibly scored on one of them. But I thought he played very, very well. And the same thing, like I said, with Gustafsson. Gustafsson made some great stops, but I'm thinking to myself, well, you know what? If they can at least get this into overtime, it'd be great to get at least 1 point out of this. But unfortunately, the Krejci penalty, and then the Canadian score, and then the open net goal again. It's just it was. Like I said, they let's put it this way: it was a good effort. It was a good effort against one of the better teams in the NHL. But this should they should be able to step back after this and start to maybe Julian gets together with some of the assistant coaches and find out when the next time we play these guys. I think we play them. We obviously play them on the Winter Classic game on the 1st. It'd be great to have obviously we're going to need a much better effort than what we had last night to win the game because again, playing 60 minutes and staying out of that penalty box. Like Stevie, like you said, I agree with you. The Bruins played well most of the game, but
58 minutes and 52 seconds.
Right, exactly. But you got to play the 60, and you just
they led the game 58 minutes and 52 seconds.
Right.
Montreal led it for a minute 8 of the end of the game, and that was enough.
Right, exactly.
That's why you play 60.
Yeah, exactly. But anyways, you've got to get off to you got to get off to good starts and just continue it throughout the whole game.
Right.
So anyways, but let's put it this way. If after the Bruins played the Canadians the first time in fact, actually, I think that game was also 4-2 that they lost at the TD Garden.
Right.
But this one was a much better effort because the Canadians were leading that one from the get-go, and the Bruins never caught up. So much better effort, but still need to tweak it up because we want to end up winning that Winter Classic again.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And it's also 2 points up in the scoreboard.
And you got to beat Montreal. Those are 4-point games when you think about it.
Yeah.
And they, you talk about. The team's still got its growing pains, and
sure.
I'm not going to give up on him yet. But Miller is not that great a defenseman right now. Trotman is like you say, he hasn't played much. Get him out there. They'll be okay. They'll gel. This is not going to be. It's a rebuild. They don't want to call it that, but it is.
Yeah,
Just
it
call
is.
it what it is.
Right.
And the thing is I'm happy with the goalie. What's the guy that came up and scored? Me and my names.
Veterano.
Veterano. Is he the one I told you about last show that was leading the AHL in scoring?
No, I think it was one of the other guys.
Okay, yeah.
I think it was that they had that Russian guy up for a while,
Right.
but for a few games, but then they sent him back.
They have talent.
Yeah, they do.
Young talent.
They do.
So let's see how it goes from there.
Yep.
I mean, hey, it's just brush up on that short-handed penalty. The penalty kill. Keep the power play going and keep the offense going. Stop sitting on the leads. And another thing too is, it's not just the Bruins. I don't know if you have it. It's on X1, Xfinity One, because they do the NHL. For some reason, I don't get charged for it. But if you go on sports, you can go on the app. They advertise the app actually during the football games and the hockey games. And if there's a game televised that night, you can watch it. So I've been watching a lot of the out-of-town games. So all the teams are doing it. But they don't hit anybody anymore, and it's center ice. They like, if you're coming from the east and I'm coming from the west, I'm not saying knock you into the first balcony.
Right.
First row of the loge would be good.
Yeah.
But hit the guy. They're going by and they're sweeping their stick at the puck, and then they're skating by the guy and going over and having a coffee or something, saying hi to a fan.
Yeah.
Hit the guy.
Yeah.
Hit him.
Well,
it's hockey.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Steve. But unfortunately, I just think that that these teams, the players don't want to get penalties.
Physicals either.
I agree with you. But at the same time, I think that what's happening here is they're afraid of getting penalties.
Right. I mean, you don't have to charge the guy.
Yeah. It seems to me like
you're right.
Yeah, like you said, most of the hitting
they're apprehensive.
most of the hitting nowadays seems to be on the boards
It's just
area.
along the boards.
Yeah,
There's nothing on
that's
open
all.
ice. And like I say, you don't have to come from the other end of the rink and not.
Yeah.
But you're 3 or 4 steps from the guy, and they just come. They skate like by him, and they swing the stick. And I missed the puck. Okay, bye.
Yeah.
I'll come catch you later.
Exactly.
No, hit him.
Yeah. Well,
Bump him. You don't have to take the body, right?
Right.
My friend Lisa loves to send this to me on Facebook. Player A takes the body. Player B takes the puck.
Yeah.
And that's how hockey works. But
right. And, another thing, too, that seems to be becoming a lost art is the hip check. I remember growing up, who was it? Johnny Busick used to have a great hip check. Well, Johnny Busick. Yeah, Johnny Busick could give somebody a great hip check, okay, and it was part of the game, okay? Nowadays, okay, it's either a penalty or if somebody gets a hip check and it's legal, the next thing you see the other team retaliate and there's all kinds of fights and shoving and pushing going on. It's like, you know what, that's part of the game.
Marchand throws a decent one, but he goes too low. What do they call it? Clipping now or something like in football?
Yeah.
Or a trip.
Yeah.
And Marchand gets a call a lot because he's a stout guy, and he's like Busick, and Busick was bigger, but I mean, but they get down to get that hip check.
Right.
The thing is, believe it or not, when you throw a hip check, you're supposed to be like parallel to the ice, like an L.
Yeah. Right.
When you bend down and you're like almost touching your helmet to the ice, that is like a clip. So I think it's a very, but you don't see it enough.
No, no, you don't.
You don't see anything no more. You don't see a sweep check.
Yeah.
Once in a while you see a decent poke check, but I mean the game is faster. I understand that, but it's not as fast as people think than it was back in the day.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Funny thing is, I would think next show I'll have it loaded up. There was just a thing on it about the monkey in the garden. We talked about that before in our show last year. They kind of resurrected it on one of the Boston newspapers there, Boston.com or something. And they showed my cousin, the picture of my cousin taking a picture. The guy was there investigating the monkey, and he took a picture of my cousin taking a picture of the garden. And I'm looking at the garden, and of course it's demolished enough where you could still see the whole.
Right.
And I'm looking at it, and I'm going, my God, you were literally. You could almost reach out and pick a player up off the ice. I mean, next show I'll post you this picture.
Yeah, I'd like
and
to
I'm
see
looking at it going, my God, look how close they are. I'll try to bring it up when I'll goof it up the show here when he goes on his next talk. But it's unbelievable.
Yeah, right. I was looking at the Super 16 list of the top NHL teams, okay? And obviously, the Canadians are number one. As of last week, they were 11-2-1 with 80 points, I guess, in your fantasy or however that works. Okay, and by the way, just wanted to mention last night, Carey Price was injured, and the Canadians goalie is actually Mike Condon, who's a local guy. I believe that he comes from Needham, I think. So, he's a local guy, and granted, he's not a Carey Price, but I don't think he really factored too much into the game. He played all right, but hey, kudos to him for making it to the NHL, a local guy around here and playing for the Canadians. And I can imagine, playing there if you have a bad game, talking about if you have pressure here and you get booed a little bit. Gee, I'll tell you what, there, if you're not playing well, you might get hit by a can of Molson Golden as you're walking off the ice, So anyways... and the Dallas Stars, they're ranked number 2, who we saw. The LA Kings have come up quite a bit. I still don't think that whatchamacallit is playing all that well. I'll be all right. Out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah. Lucic,
Miljan Lucic,
well.
No, he hasn't been doing all that well.
No, because he's done.
Yeah, but the team went on. They did went on a roll
last year.
Yeah, they went on a roll like the Bruins, and they were like 6-0-1 in like 7 games. They're ranked 3rd. You get the Blues; they're 4th with 9-3-1. In fact, actually, the Blues. Just speaking of them, I watched the Wednesday night rivalry game between the Bruins, between the Blues and the Blackhawks, and it was in the second period, and this is in Chicago. The Blackhawks were leading the game 5-2. Blues score a goal at the end of the second period to make it 5-3. They tie it up with a few minutes left, and then they go into the overtime. And I'll tell you what an exciting overtime. That 3-on-3 is really good, I got to say. But anyways, in that overtime period, Tarasenko scored a goal like halfway through it to win it for the Blues, right? But, it was just up and down. A lot of 2-on-1s and stuff like that. Very exciting hockey. And then we go up the list. The Rangers, they're 5th. Washington is 6th. 7th is Nashville. 8th is the Minnesota Wild.
Wow, Nashville's up there. That's nice. Yeah.
9th is the New York Islanders. 10th is the Blackhawks.
Islanders tonight at 5 o'clock, by the way. Of course, we'll be watching the Patriots, but it'll be a switcheroo.
Right.
Well, the Pats will be over by then.
Right, exactly. Well, the Bruins are in the top 10 right now.
Yep.
And but they're the positive on the Bruins is that the power play is the best that it's been since anybody can remember. They have the best power play in the league. The negative is they have the worst penalty kill in the league. So
it's either feast or famine.
Yeah, it's either feast or famine.
But you know what? I think it's easier. This is my opinion. I think for the Bruins, where they've already had a good penalty killing unit, I think it'd be easier now for them to improve that rather than, it's taken years to get that power play back.
Right.
So I do have a little faith in them as far as that goes.
Yeah, I think that
going. And again, puck possession.
Yeah, and I think where Claude's a defensive guy, I think he's going to figure out something.
Yeah,
I just hope it's sooner rather than later.
Right.
Just needs to get those 1 or 2 key guys again. Besides Bergeron, we had Kelly. Well, we got to get somebody else that's going to take Kelly's place. I don't know whether Ericsson's another one that's a little bit versatile. Maybe he can hop in there or and take that place. Or maybe if they bring some guy up from Providence, maybe they can possibly make a difference to button things up a little bit.
Another thing, a lot aren't realizing, I haven't checked all the stats, but it does seem that, especially with the Canadians, when the Bruins power play was suffering the last few years, basically the rest of the league was too.
Yeah.
There was maybe a couple of teams that had a standout power play.
Right.
Like Chicago, Tampa.
Yeah.
Tampa had a great...
Washington and Pittsburgh.
Yeah, but...
Yeah.
I think what's happening this year, too, is everyone's power play is improved. So it's making the shorthanded situation look like it's not that well. But the Bruins is atrocious. It's like almost a guaranteed goal now when the Bruins are shorthanded. Yeah. Too much puck watching.
Yeah.
They stand around watching. Hey, geez, look at that guy. He's pretty good.
Yeah,
that guy's pretty good. Come on, play! Anyway, I brought that picture up my cousin. This
let's see it.
Globe back in '98. And we'll, I can't find my little icon here. I blocked it with my camera. Apologize for that. I didn't have volume on that video photo, but you saw it, and that was our. Yeah, you saw how the garden. It just looked so.
Oh, yeah, you were just on top of the ice whenever you went to the game.
Look at the balconies, just right
Well,
on top of them.
Yeah.
And,
Well, you know what's funny is you could end up with the best. Kind of a lot like Fenway.
Right.
You could either end up with the best seat in the house or the worst seat in the house. Now, I'll tell you what. Just looking at that picture again. I know, Stevie. Can we get that picture?
Yeah. Let me get a little. What do you call it? Add it in there.
We get a split screen, or
yeah, we'll be all right here in a minute.
all right.
I think I don't want to goof everything all up.
No, don't do that.
Whoops. We'll bring it up, folks. Don't worry about it. It's for some reason I'm having.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
All right.
Let me see if this works with our. We're having trouble with the audio.
Okay.
The, switch over here. There we are. We're in now.
Okay. All right. Well, anyways, I'll still never forget. This is back in the early 80s when the Islanders were on their streak where they won 4 straight Stanley Cups. And
I was in the Army during that.
Yeah. I remember a buddy of mine that we played softball with, okay, he would always tell us, he would always say to us, hey, I can get you guys great tickets to the Bruins game. I can get you, I have a connection or whatever, right? So finally, me and my brother and brother-in-law, we took him up on it. We said to him, it was like put up or shut up, So anyways, so he says, yeah, he goes, I get these great tickets for you. He goes, I'll meet you in front of the Garden, So we got in there early and grabbed a bite to eat, and then we're waiting in front for him, and it's like 10 minutes before the game, and we don't see the guy, and we're just there and of course this is the days before cell phones or anything like that, so we're just hanging, waiting in front, and all of a sudden he comes along and he goes, here, guys. He goes, here, I got you the tickets. And then he turns on and he goes, well, they're not as good as I said they were, but they're still pretty good seats, And he goes, yeah, me and my buddy, we're sitting in center ice, dead center in the front row, whatever, right? So I'm just like, okay. So we get in, okay, and the Islanders actually set a record. They scored a goal 4 seconds into the game. The only thing is, if you look at the picture, okay, we were right up above underneath here. So we did not. We were like in the corner, right up above, right up above. We could only see to center ice. Yeah. So we kind of missed the goal. All we know is we heard a bunch of booing going on right when the puck dropped. And needless to say, the Bruins didn't end up winning that night because the Islanders were pretty hot back in those days. But always an interesting story. But I also remember too. Sometimes the company that I worked for, we used to get tickets through our company because they had season tickets, and they used to have tickets right in the next section before all the announcers were on the and it was actually on the overhang area in the first row.
Right.
So those were beautiful seats. I mean, you felt like you were right on top of the ice, So it's like with Fenway, I mean, yeah, it's either the best seat in the house or the worst seat in the house,
Well, the thing is you get what do you call it? The we were talking about this I think before. The Garden when it was built is the same. Laid out the same as Madison Square Garden.
Right.
That's why they're both called the Garden. Same guy built them in the 20s.
But they were actually originally built.
For
both
boxing.
of them were actually built for boxing.
Right, and that's why no matter where you sat or sit in Madison, you could see center ice.
Right.
You may be behind. There's no obstructive view for the ring.
Right.
Exactly. Or a concert, it's center ice.
Yeah.
But if you got to go down to one end or I've sat in some of them seats, and I mean there's some beauties, let me tell you.
Yeah. Certainly is, that's for sure. Yeah.
But anyway, that was the old photo. I love that because it just shows how the what do you call it? How much the Garden, he just was right on top of those players.
Yeah.
And
yeah, and remember, and there were only I think the capacity of the Garden, if my memory is right, was 13,909.
14 with standing room only.
Right, 14 with standing room only or whatever, right? But I'll tell you what, talking about, I mean, having the crowd advantage, kind of like with Montreal,
Right.
even though, with Montreal in the old Forum, same deal, with the crowd would just take over that whole place. But I'll tell you what, the way that they built that Bell Center, I've been in there, and it's basically, they built it kind of like on the same way that they had the old Forum and even a combination of the old Boston Garden,
Right.
except that there is no obstructed view. But at the TD, I mean, the seats kind of like go up like at a branch, whereas in Montreal they're very, very steep going up. Even though when you get up to the top, you feel like you could fall. But at the same time, I know where we were sitting, we had a rail in front of us, so I felt secure. But I'll tell you what, they're so close up under the ice. I can see how those fans can definitely take over the game because they're just right on top.
Even Chicago was like that.
Yeah,
You know?
the old Chicago Stadium. Yep.
It's too bad when they built the new Garden. They didn't. I mean, it's great.
Yeah, it is. Let's put it this way: it's better than
Yeah.
what we had as far as I mean, I don't know how many times you look at the Garden and the old Garden and you talk about it, but how many times were you there, or like in a spring game or a fall game, and in the third period you feel like you could just take your shirt off and wring it out because it was so hot in there because there was no air, air conditioning.
AC.
And then you never forget about how that in the playoffs,
Right.
or when the Bruins or the Celtics were in the playoffs, you'd see the Bruins, they would clear both benches and have them go out and skate for a while to clear some of the fog off the ice. And the same thing in the when they played, the Celtics played, I can remember them getting towels, all the players, and helping wipe the floor down because the floor got so damp because of all the condensation from it being so
but
so
you had the
hot in
fog
there.
game and-
Yeah. And then of course there were the famous power outages too.
Yeah.
That famous power outage versus the Edmonton Oilers there in the playoff game. Although, they talked about how that, they said, geez, the Garden's so old it needs to be replaced. And, granted, they were right about that. But at the same time, from what I heard, eventually they found out that the reason why that went off was, the power went off, was there was a guy that used to work there, and he was in the Bull Crew, and he was a disgruntled employee.
Oh.
So what he did was he decided he knew right where to go, so he went and he flipped the circuit or whatever, and it took a little while for them to figure it out.
More than a circuit.
That's why that's why that happened, But
Lucky he didn't go to jail for that.
Yeah, right.
Safety issue.
Exactly.
The fog one was the best,
Yeah.
though. And you're watching a game, of course, when you watch it at a bar, you're in a fog anyway, right?
Yeah, right,
And
right.
you're like,
yeah.
is there something wrong with the TV?
Were you drinking fog cutters too?
Fog cutters, yeah. You needed them that night.
Yes.
That was the old Edmonton Oiler cup run the whole time. But, yeah, they, you're watching the game. You're like, is that fog? And then next thing, because it was like it's 82 out, outside in that June heat,
Yeah.
But,
and that was one of I think that was the only playoff game that actually they ended it in a tie.
Yeah.
And they said that if there was another game to be played, if they would have finished it if they had to.
No,
but Edmonton swept them.
Right.
So
exactly. Yeah, a lot of people forget that.
Yeah.
That game actually didn't count.
Yeah, exactly.
It actually didn't count.
But and they also talked about. I remember back in the early '80s, the Bruins were interested in actually moving the team up to Salem, New Hampshire. They were going to put them in where the Rockingham was.
Yeah.
The racetrack. But
that wasn't going to happen.
I figured that wasn't going to happen. I think that was maybe that was a little threat, kind of like what Kraft did there with
to go to Rhode Island?
No, actually, this was to go to first it was Rhode Island, and then it was Connecticut.
Yeah, Auckland was going to take them to Rhode Island.
Yeah. And then they bought that land in Connecticut that actually ended up being hazardous waste. So they actually ended up getting out of that deal once they got what they wanted in Foxborough. But overall, the TD Garden. You go there and there's more seats. So, it is more comfortable to watch the game. Maybe you don't get the view that you used to get at the Garden, but I think, in most new establishments, especially, too, another thing that, that with the tolerances and everything like that they have to have, and I know that when they originally built the TD Garden, there was only a 9-inch difference between where they started the construction from the old Garden to the new Garden.
Wow.
Except back then it was the Fleet Center.
The Fleet, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
exactly.
they were right. Yeah, it was built right, practically touching, like you said.
In
Yeah.
fact, actually, until they knocked down the old garden afterwards, you couldn't even see the TD Garden.
No,
you couldn't even see it. You could see the backside from the expressway, but you couldn't see the front of it.
No.
You know. So
what else you got there? The Halloween.
Yeah, the Bruins. Some of the players made the annual Halloween visit to the Boston Children's Hospital, and I guess that they dressed up as characters from Despicable Me. And Zdeno Chara dressed as Gru and was joined by minions Tori Krug, David Krejci, Tuukka Rask, and Jimmy Hayes. The Bruins went from room to room as they delivered goodie bags to the children, signed autographs, and they took pictures. I guess Chara's Gru villain impersonation, complete with his mask, I guess was spot on, while the rest of the group perfectly rocked the yellow Minions outfits, with each representing a different theme of referee minion, maid minion, bearded minion, and siren minion. And, Tori Krug summed it all up, and he says, he goes, the smiles on their faces, he goes, the laughs we get when we walk into a room and they see athletes and they watch on they watch on TV, and all of a sudden they're dressed up in costumes and it makes them laugh. It's just something easy to do for us. I know the Bruins do this kind of stuff every year, and it's always great, to see them, go in there and visit the Dana-Farbers and all those,
all the
those,
athletes do. But you know what? It's in the contract of the teams. But you know what? The Bruins, they do it. Hockey players are a different breed. They just do it. It's
right.
how they are.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
But it's great.
Yep. Let me see. Just touching off some other things here. Let me see. We covered the Kelly situation there. He's going to be out 6 to 8 months.
Yeah, he'll be back in time for the playoffs. Playoffs.
Oh, just to touch this briefly, Kevin Weeks, once in a while I'll look at his articles. He had a list of the best goalies never to win the Stanley Cup, okay? His first one is Curtis Joseph.
Yeah.
Who I got to agree with that because, what was it they used to say in Toronto? Only God makes more saves than Joseph. But, he was one of those guys there. He had a great personality, and, he was on a lot of teams that maybe weren't all that great. He was on some teams that had some runs. He had 51 shutouts in his career, but he had 454 wins, which ranks fourth all time. And I guess he's not in the Hall of Fame. You would think that he would be.
You would.
The second one is Roberto Luongo. Yeah, who actually has more wins now than his boyhood idol Grant Fuhr. But I think that the closest he's going to get is that Game 7 against the Bruins in the Stanley Cup Finals there in 2011. Granted, he's had a long career. The third guy that I would like to see win a cup, albeit not against the Bruins in the finals, would be Henrik Lundqvist of the Rangers.
Yeah. He does deserve one.
Like they said, he's kind of like to the Rangers. He's the new version of Mike Richter. The only thing he's missing is a Stanley Cup.
I think he should be number one on that list.
Yeah, I agree.
Way ahead of Luongo.
I agree. Yeah, as far as like active players go, I totally agree. In Kevin Weeks' defense, excuse the pun, him being a former goalie, but he just listed the three guys. That's all he listed. He didn't put numbers or anything like that. Right. So we'll give him a break. We'll give him a break.
I noticed you have your veterans.
Yes.
Camouflage B on today.
Yes,
I like that.
I do for Veterans Day. We're gonna get to that, Stevie. Upcoming games on this afternoon. The Bruins at 5 p.m. They're in Brooklyn to play the New York Islanders.
Again.
That game's going to be on Nesson. Thursday they come back home to take on Patrick Roy's Colorado Avalanche. That's at 7:00 p.m. and that's on Nesson. And then they finish off the week Saturday at home against the Detroit Red Wings. They come in, and that's also going to be a 7:00 p.m. game that's also on Nesson, okay? But getting back to the shirt, Steve.
Yeah, I got a little ahead of the
Yes, that's all right. That's all right. That's fine. And you being a veteran yourself, thank you very much for serving our country.
No problem, my friend.
Yes. Yes. But anyways, the Bruins are going to be hosting.
3 more days.
Bruins are going to be hosting Military Appreciation Night the day after Veterans Day on 11/12 versus the Colorado Avalanche. Okay. I don't know if anybody saw in the papers. I think I saw it. I heard about it Wednesday, and then I saw it on Thursday's paper that with Veterans Day coming up this Wednesday, November 11th. When we go to these professional sporting events, you always see one of our active veterans in the service honored at some point. The game. Like at the Bruins, they have the 8-spoke salute there, where they'll have an area up in the balcony where they'll film everybody will see it on the scoreboard there, and they'll honor him, and he'll salute the crowd, and and that's all nice stuff. Some of them they get in for a lot of them get in for nothing, and some of them get luxury box seats, which is nice too. But I found out that it was a little disturbing this week to learn that I just thought, and so did you, Stephen, a lot of other people, that all the teams were just doing this out of the goodness of their heart.
Apparently not.
Which is great, but I guess apparently not. We learned that the teams aren't just doing this out of the goodness of their hearts. We, the taxpayers, are footing the bill. $700,000 to the Patriots. $195,000 to the Celtics, $280,000 to the Bruins, and $100,000 to the Red Sox. I guess this is a nationwide practice throughout all the country, and basically, it's it's marketing the military for recruitment purposes. Well, either way about this,
right. There's two ways to look at it.
The bottom line is our men and women who are serving, they get to come and they don't have to pay anything to go to the game, and they get honored, which I think is a great thing.
There's a budget for the recruitment. And without a draft right now, and nobody wants a draft, you've got to encourage the young men and women to join the military. And this is a great way of doing it. Like I spoke before, if I'm graduating high school this spring and I'm sitting at a Patriots game, a Bruins game, and I see them guys in uniform and I'm on the fence of joining, that might push me. I'm calling recruiter tomorrow.
Right.
So, it is a good marketing plan.
It is.
But for the kind of money that's being spent, it's in their budget. But, I'd rather see, you're talking a lot of them. You gave just our state.
Oh, let's put it this way.
All the other states.
Let's put it this way. With our state, that ends up being over $1 million.
Yeah, so you're talking, say $50 million for all the other states, because they all basically have teams. So, you're looking at, that's $50 million. That too bad it couldn't be used going in the veterans' pockets.
Right.
But, again, it's like anything else. It's budgeted for recruitment.
Right.
But you don't realize that. You're thinking that this is a thing that the teams are doing.
Yeah.
So technically the teams are charging the military to do this, and it's am I against it? No, I'm for it, but it does, there are people that would say, well, that's taxpayers' dollars, there's better places it could go, and I agree 100%.
Yeah.
But it'd just be like if Coca-Cola wanted to have a bunch of Coca-Cola mascots running around the field, they'd have to pay the NFL for that. Right. So this is what the military's paying the NFL for.
Except we won't
marketing.
Except we won't be using Bill Cosby in any of the Coke commercials anymore.
No.
And we won't go any more about that.
But like you say, I think it was misleading, though, us thinking that out of the kindness of the owners' hearts, they were doing this to promote our military. Well, guess what, folks? There's no kindness in any owner's hearts. It's all about that big dollar.
Yeah,
it always will be.
Yeah.
That's why you're paying a week's salary to sit there and with your kids, or 2 weeks for most people, to sit there and watch these teams play. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
You can watch this show for nothing.
Right. Like I said, hey, yeah, exactly. And and like
Happy
I said,
Veterans Day.
Yeah, exactly. When we go to the Bruins games and you see the vets being honored, hey, it's a great feeling to see them being honored.
I don't want to see it stop.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
It's just kind of, it was, like I said, it was just kind of disturbing to find out that. And it's funny, even one of the representatives in the state there, Stephen Lynch, who, by the way, is a veteran also, there was an article in the paper that he wasn't even aware of that.
Oh, right. It took a lot of people by surprise.
Yeah, exactly. But like I said, the bottom line is I'm just glad that these guys are being, and personally myself, I think that, and hopefully the teams follow this practice. If there's any active vet that goes to a game and they're right now serving our country, and who knows, they're probably here on leave.
Right.
They could go somewhere, and they could either something bad could possibly happen to them. It's unfortunate, but
Right.
that's the
Could
risk
be
you
their
take.
last hockey
You know,
game or
wouldn't
last
it be
football
nice to?
game.
Yeah, I hope that all veterans, all active veterans that go to any of these sporting events should get in for free. They shouldn't have to pay a dime.
Again, the almighty dollar.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you'll see probably some fuss made out of this, but with the way this country's going, and I don't mean to get political with the desecration of our flag, the "God Bless America" being taken out of everything. It's nice to see that flag spread across a football field.
Yes.
Or and the color guards coming out with our colors while they're singing the national anthem. Hockey now is one of the only games that televise the national anthem.
Right.
Baseball does on some of them.
Yeah.
And football, you never see it. You never see the national anthem on football. I've always been against that. They'd rather get the almighty dollar because it's advertising.
Right.
And again, enough. How much money you want?
Yeah.
You just got to keep. You got ads all over the place. This will bring ticket prices down. We're going to put ads all around the boards and people be able to. Families will be able to afford to come to. Bullshit.
They just want more. That's all they want. More money.
More
money.
More. Just stick it right up the fans' acoustic.
Yeah. It's like I was just saying to Stevie. I got this shirt last Christmas from my wife.
Happy Veterans
Thank
Day.
you very much. This is, the camouflage, the veterans thing, the veterans theme, which is great. But you know what? Wouldn't it be nice when you see the 8-spoke salute, when you see one of those, when you're at the game, you see one of the players honored, or one of the veterans honored. I shouldn't say players, veterans, but anyways, whether it be a man or a woman, how about giving them one of these shirts?
Right. Present that to them.
Present that to them. I don't know what they give them, whatever. Wouldn't it be nice to just, give them one of these shirts or have them put it on or whatever?
Right.
Talking about bringing the house down.
Right after the salute, you have them put them on. You have it up on the scoreboard, like you said, bring the house down.
Exactly. But, one good thing about this Military Appreciation Night that they're having against the Avalanche is that Bruins players, Jimmy Hayes, David Krejci, Torrey Krug, Brad Marchand, Kevin Miller, and Zach Trotman, they teamed up to purchase $15,000 worth of tickets for local military members and their families to get into the game for free.
See, that's
so
awesome.
that's really that's really nice, a nice gesture for them to do.
So that's good. And they do. I know the year I had season tickets, I actually went to a game. I believe it was on Veterans Day evening, and they. No, it couldn't have been because I would have been to the parade that day and probably not made the game. But anyway, it was the immediate game probably after or before it, and they told all the veterans to stand up, and in our chair, seats.
Anybody who has served,
that served or was serving, veterans, and we all stood up and they gave us a nice, salute and round of applause, and it was nice, to be recognized. So, thank God they do something.
Right.
Because if they weren't doing anything, we'd be complaining. Oh, they don't do anything for the veterans, which would be true.
Right.
But so they are doing something. So I don't know. It's one of those things. It is what it is, I guess, and we'll see how it forms out. But meanwhile, anything else there?
No, I think that pretty much covers it, Steve.
Oh, we got a game coming up. Go Pats today. Go Bruins, and God bless our veterans.
Yes.
God bless our troops out there in harm's way. God bless the troops stateside too. God bless you. God bless America. And happy Veterans Day. We'll see you right here at Bees Buzz next week.